Oh, I know something I saw I can talk about.
You know what?
Something I want to talk about.
Okay. We can talk about whatever we want. At NAB,
want me to
at
get
the
over
end,
here
we'll plug your document, your show.
Good.
Yeah, absolutely. So here we are, NAB 2024. Every year at NAB 2024, I message you and say you're going to NAB. I don't know until like the last minute, and then you show up like magic, which happened again this year, right?
Well, I don't know. Yes, I haven't been here in like 3 or 4 years, since before the pandemic.
Right.
And somehow I was under the impression that there weren't going to be many people here. But as you can see, there's only probably 75 or 80,000 people. And I think they're all in this hallway right here.
They're all waiting to Blackmagic. Yeah, the South Hall seems to be the most popular hall because they're the anchor.
Blackmagic is doing some remarkable innovation with cameras, with non-linear editing, with switchers, and I sound like I represent them, which I don't. But yeah, I think it's great that they're doing this stuff, and I think they're pushing, all
So I'm a big
else.
fan of DaVinci Resolve. I bought the studio license years ago. Final Cut Pro for me, DaVinci Resolve, and LumaFusion. I don't need any more. Those three fill all my needs from different areas.
Well, I've never used LumaFusion because that's the one that's on the iPad. Is that right?
Yeah. It's also on the M1 Mac.
It's on a Mac?
M1 Mac, same price, $29, gets you the iPad version, the iPhone version.
But I have Final Cut. What do I want LumaFusion for? But
color coding of clips and sorting by color coding. A master overview timeline, no matter what your zoom level is, under the viewer. Little timeline, the way the MacBook Pro used to have that? You can scrub the entire timeline. You can select, you can scrub. Things that Final Cut Pro doesn't have.
Richard, I think I'm at that point in my life where I can only handle one NLE at a time.
I understand.
And I have DaVinci Resolve envy, because I see them innovating with great AI, great stuff, and I wish Final Cut had all that stuff.
Well,
and I have it on my computer, but I admit that I haven't spent much time with it because it's a struggle just to figure out what I'm doing in Final Cut.
I completely understand.
And I'm very happy with what I'm doing. It's very stable. It's usually very fast. But you asked me before, what did I see when I was here? And the most impressive thing by far that I saw the day I got here was the Sphere. And the movie by Darren Aronofsky.
I'm jealous that you got to go over there. I didn't get
Postcard from Earth. See, I'm an IMAX freak. I went to expos all around the world and saw the early large screen IMAX films. Fortunately, I ended up for a period of time being an executive at Sony, and I was producing 3D IMAX films for Sony. And I've always loved IMAX because it's the biggest, best picture in the world by far. It was. Not the current iteration that takes, films that were shot and they blow them up on a larger screen and they charge $20 more. I think that's diluting the brand. But having said that, I saw the Sphere. It makes IMAX look like an iPhone. The Sphere, 270-degree liquid crystal wall. It's mind-blowing. And Darren Aronofsky, the director who did The Whale and The Black Swan and a bunch of other great movies, made a terrific hour-long, I would call it a doc. It's a postcard from Earth about the most beautiful, amazing things about the planet that you will never see in your lifetime in person, but you feel now that you've been able to see it. So, yes, it was very expensive.
How much was it? I was going to ask you.
Well, I'm embarrassed to tell you how much my seat was.
Well, I'll tell you how much my Rolling Stones tickets were when they toured last time.
I think the seats started around $100.
Okay, that's not too bad.
But you think, Broadway tickets, are $100 and up. My seats, I wanted to sit in the center because how many times am I going to see the sphere?
Absolutely.
So my seat was about $200.
Okay.
And the structure itself is spectacular. I didn't like the fact that the showtime says 4:30, and when you get there, you find out it doesn't really start till 5:30. They want you to see the technical stuff in the lobby, which is very good and fine. But I wanted to I wanted to go see the movie.
Sure.
Okay. I got there already being angry that they took an hour of my life.
Right.
But when that movie started, boy, that was great. And I would highly recommend anybody that wants to see the world's biggest, greatest screen crystal clear. Just mind-boggling.
I'm sure it is.
And they only had 150,000 speakers putting sound in,
That alone, just programming sound is just incredibly complex, I'm sure.
So, and in the show here, I came here not to see hardware, but to meet people and say hello to you and
Absolutely.
Sam Nessman and a bunch of my other friends, Bradley Olson and all those, Final Cut guys. And, just to keep the friendships
Right.
going.
So let's talk about Final Cut. What the state of Final Cut right now, right? Since 10.7. 10.7 was I really liked 10.7. I enjoyed talking to the Final Cut Pro team. I enjoyed their candor when we had the Q&A at the Creative Summit. But it's once again now 4 months, 5 months, and no any kind of news on what's happening with Final Cut. It's radio silence. There's been
Final Cut is kind of like the tortoise and the hare, right? Final Cut is the tortoise that's slow and steady in terms of getting where you want to go, but it gets you there. I've been using Final Cut since day one. Literally, I had the first Final Cut 1 when it came out.
1999?
Bought new Macs. It was a revolution because the critical mass happened. Final Cut happened. Sony came out with the little digital cassette. PX1000, I think, was the first one. And it was a camera this big. And under the best circumstances, you could make it look like a $100,000 Betamax. And in fact, I produced a couple of shows that year using these little teeny cameras that by network standards, it was required to use Betamax cameras.
Right, I remember.
And for what I was doing, it wasn't appropriate or affordable or anything else. And Rob King, who was my editor and engineer at the time, said, we can blow this up to what we deliver and nobody will be able to tell the difference. And they couldn't, and it looked great. And they weren't intimidating cameras. I was doing high school boot camp with teenage kids holding a little teeny digital camera, And that's why, Joan Churchill and her husband Alan Barker were talking about how they love the iPhone camera, even though they've used every camera. And, she grew up in the business and has had every camera on her shoulder as a shooter. They are using a little teeny rig and an iPhone now because it gives them something that the others won't, and that's access. Because people are not intimidated by the little camera.
That's correct.
I'm not promoting that. I'm venting on about, all these subjects, but there is so much happening now in the world of video. It's very exciting.
Well, these cameras shoot 4K, and the quality is superb. This iPhone Pro Max, 15 Pro Max, shoots Apple ProRes log. And that's...
I don't know why you need Apple ProRes RAW.
Because it's different. When you shoot both, the log is superior.
Are you shooting log now?
No, I'm not, because I'm shooting two cameras.
Oh, right.
I'm shooting you on one and I'm shooting me on the back. Two separate cameras. Both of them are separate files in 4K.
And what program is that?
It's Road Capture. Free.
Road Capture.
Capture.
That's another really innovative company that's making
absolutely.
great stuff. I just bought their Rode Wireless Pro, and I was producing an off-Broadway musical thing, and we had this presentation where we didn't have any mics, and I took the little teeny transmitter like this one here, and pasted it behind where the actors were going to be, pushed the record button, which now 32 float, and it was fabulous.
Yep, this is the DJI system, the same thing. Records internally, 32-bit float if I want to, but it's also, as you see, plugged into the iPhone.
Right.
No cable, zero cable, It balances perfectly on my gimbal. There's no like heavy.
Fabulous.
Yeah. And so you're mic'd up and I'm mic'd up.
Where's your mic?
Oh, it's right under here.
Oh, you have another one of these?
Yes.
Oh, that's what the little green light is that's flashing.
Little square.
Oh, I see.
I like it on the inside of the shirt rather than the big thing on the outside of the shirt.
Oh, I see here, yeah.
Yeah, just a little teeny square. So it just looks better, and it doesn't really cut any audio out. So
that brings me to Westdoc, which I hope to plug here on your show. So I want to say, westdoconline.com or westdoc.net. We just recorded our 150th episode.
How many do you do? Give us a couple a week?
No, I usually do 2 a month.
2 a month.
And it's a lot of work, actually, because I've switched to a platform that gives me the best possible quality, called Riverside Pro. And it's system agnostic, but it gives me the raw files from every individual person. My camera, your camera, the other person's camera. And so it's not depending on the speed of the internet at the time.
Sure.
It's recording and uploading at the proper speed, so I get the best possible file.
Right.
And that makes a lot more work for me because I have to put it in post.
Of course.
And then I have to, no matter how many times I tell everybody, will you please wear headphones and have an external mic? Half the people don't. So then I have to fix the sound, and I have to sometimes I have to color correct, sometimes I don't.
Yeah.
But I love multicam, that I can do all of that when I start, or when I'm in the middle of the show, or even after I cut. So I could have 100 cuts in a show, but when I go back to the original multicam, it's one continuous take. So if I make the color correction here, color correct, and that's like magic.
Right.
When I'm cutting it, I'm watching the show, I can see if there's 2 guests or whatever, I usually have 4 or more shots, and I'm cutting it sometimes in real time. But Apple is a pretty amazing company.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
I love the Apple. It's like, come on. Got my Apple phone, my Apple Watch, my MacBook Pro.
Where's your Vision Pro?
My Mac Studio. I don't have a Vision Pro because I'm not going to be wearing those goggles around.
We're not going to update the iPad version with new features and not give it to the Mac version. That's what I'm saying, for political reasons.
The problem is they have to decide who this program is for. And they got caught in the middle between, consumer, pro, and amateur somewhere. And funny, because I remember when Final Cut first came out, and I went to the first SoCal Final Cut something meeting, and there were 3 guys from Apple there when it first came out, and they said, this is not for professionals.
I remember that.
And that was shocking in a way, because we were professionals and we were using it and we were loving it. Even Final Cut 1. But Final Cut, I'm a big advocate. I've been a huge advocate of Final Cut, because I think the magnetic timeline is a big time saver. I think it's brilliant. And I love my Macs.
Yep.
They're rock solid. The program doesn't crash. I can count on things working. So
I don't disagree with any of that. So congratulations for making it to NAB 2024.
Thank you.
And you're going to make it to the Creative Summit in November?
I have no idea where I'm going to be in November.
They haven't announced it yet, but I presume they're going to have another one.
Watch Westdoconline.com. And here we are in Las Vegas.
Yes. Thank you, Chuck Braverman.
Richard, thank you.
It's always a pleasure.
It's been my pleasure.
Always a pleasure talking to you.
Adios.